She has really wonderful background and experience, as well as, interestingly, some training that really gives her lovely additional background, and that is in the sciences. I think if you are training as a scientist and can then apply that to your art, doesn't that add an interesting perspective? She started and invented pocket sketching as a way to, I think, pay the bills. So she's going to talk to you today about how you can go on an adventure with her that will inspire you to perhaps thinking about a different way to make a practical decision about adding to your painting and teaching or whatever your art is. Her workshops have been nationally and on media taught all over the place, and she's had wonderful experience in institutions such as the Chautauqua Institution, Arizona institutions here in Sedona, at the Desert Museum, at Canyon Ridge, at Tohono Chul Park, among others, but also throughout the country, as she and her husband have traveled. They're going to take you on a travel adventure today. And she's been, just as I say, all over the country. While she was teaching and traveling, she was competing in national shows and won awards, including several Best in Show awards again, all over the country, and especially in the West. She's really a Western, I would say at this point in her life, a Western artist. She studied marketing and scientific illustration at the University of Arizona and New Mexico State University. And she says, as an artist, I enjoy capturing the moment that catches my eye. As an instructor, I delight in easy to learn, totally portable, no cleanup concepts and techniques, and it can be applied to beginners and professionals alike. So I hope you enjoy Kath Macaulay.
Got to be sure I get close enough to this microphone. Krista, thank you very much. I'm really going to go into the business behind how I got to where I am now, because people really think this is not accessible to them, and you'd be amazed what's accessible to you. The shot that you're looking at right now is, I believe, the introduction on season 2 at PBS. Season 3 is about to be released, and I look terribly successful. I've only recently embodied the idea that, yeah, I guess I am terribly successful, because, we tend to run ourselves down. Let everybody else do that for you. Don't run yourself down. It's kind of a great lesson. Anyway, this shot is one of the introduction ones, and I'm going to signal for a video. I want you to see the difference between pocket sketching and everything else. So this was done by, is it on both sides? Thomas MacArthur did this for me. He also did 3 DVDs for me, and his wife is now my website master. Is it coming up? Hasn't come up yet. If it doesn't, we can go somewhere else. One of the things you have to do is be extremely flexible. Okay, so it's not Just one? Okay, it'll be maybe on that screen. It was something we did when we were playing around because I have hauled oil equipment all over the country and it's working. This is getting ready to oil paint. This is what you bring. That's a Julian easel. You can haul that for miles. It's heavy. I don't know about the noise behind it because there is music, but no. Oh. Oh. Oh, that one. She took my mic away. Daddy took the T-bird away. And this is the comparison. That was a comparison. Okay, get me back on mic, please. Is there something, if I talk, can you get the mic under control? We asked it to do too much. Yay, technical people.
Sorry about that. Okay, try that now.
It picked you up. Are you picking me up and am I speaking or am I repeating? I've got an echo and I'll keep talking for her. Gives me a chance to set my clock anyway. I live on a clock. So not a bad idea. Now I think it's straight. Whee! Okay, I think everybody in the room can hear me now. Oh, no? Now, okay. Ooh, now you can really hear me. And I can back up a touch. Okay, sorry about that. We hadn't tried that one before. I have 3 cute little examples. I want to show you what I do. So this is my signal. There's one that was done in Tubac. That lady only sat on that bench for a minute. I meant to draw the bench, but she sat down and it's all tired out. Next one. This is Ted DeGrazia's front door. You should recognize that. Little hard to get that filmy plant. Next. That's just flowers. I do a lot of these because still life is the perfect setup for doing people. And if you've practiced on still life, which is non-threatening, and then you get people right afterwards, which I do in a workshop, the people become still life on steroids. And almost everybody does people beautifully, and they've all blocked that out of their mind. It's in the description of every workshop, and they block it out because they are terrified of it. And then when they do it marvelously. So it's great. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about the equipment because this is why pocket sketching is portable. I will be off mic, but I have a voice that may shatter glass anyway. This is a bag that I invented. I have it made, imported. Right now, it's on a crossbody strap as a purse because the back pocket which zips closed, carries your ID, your credit cards, your money, your healthcare card. Then you zip that closed. It's against your body. You don't need to bring a purse. The main part of the bag carries a paint set, pad of paper, and the bag will become an easel. The next pocket, whoa baby, carries business cards and that sort of thing. The front pocket carries the pens, a credit card with which I paint. The side pockets carry the water, and this is all you need. It's a 35 millimeter film canister. One of these is a half day's supply of water. When the flaps are down over the water, it's clean. When both flaps are down, everything is in the bag except your ID. Pick it up and leave and go sketch. Now, the advantages of this, A, you can go shopping and not look like an idiot. B, you can put on the fanny strap and this becomes an easel. However, you can also downhill ski, hike, bike, and run with this on, fully equipped. And at any moment, stop, take out your stuff. There's a shortcut here. You open this, and I'm not going to go into this much, but I can only open it one way. I don't want anything to spill. The pad goes on top of it. It rests on the bag. This becomes your easel. You sketch, and I teach people to do landscape, still life, and people in 25 minutes or less anywhere in the world, and there's no cleanup. You put that together compared to oil painting or regular watercolor, you can't beat it. And bit by bit, I got to where I kept oil paints at the front door, watercolors at the other side, and I'd be planning to go out and had a day off. I was going to pick one of them up. This was back in the bookshelves. For 4 months, I took this, and I'm slow. It took me 4 months to figure out I am never going to pick up the oil paints or the watercolors because I can take this anywhere, go running with it, biking with it, no cleanup, put it down, and no expense, for goodness sake. Instead of great big sheets of water at 15, watercolor paper at $15 a piece, my pad of paper is 3.5, isn't it, Dale? For 24 sheets, and that's 48 sides. I mean, you can burn through this stuff for nothing. It's very convenient. So I'm going to put this down and then tell you about the business that happened because of it. Yes, I do teach workshops, but anyway, that's the bag. And I mentioned you can go anywhere. It's portable, compact, no cleanup. And now 3 examples. This is Pagan, who plays viola for TSO, and sitting in the audience. If you're bored with the music, sketch the musicians. The next one, O'Hare Airport, 4.5-hour layover. The guy across from me pulls out a great big sketchbook and says to his wife, "They gave it to me, I have to use it." He'd never sketched before. I plan to read a book, but that green bag is always with me. I thought, well, if he can do it, he doesn't know how, I can do it. I darn near missed my plane. It was the 3rd call to the plane. I did not go to the bathroom. I got on the plane and I really had to go. I got gobs of people. They hold still, they don't care. Wonderful place. Next one. This is the X-Bar X chicken coop. It's on an extremely high dollar ranch near Sheridan, Wyoming, where I was hired by the owner of the ranch to come teach her and her friends. She paid for the workshop and for me to get there. They were oil painting from horseback. That's gotta be a disaster. She wanted something that was portable, so she hired me to come. That's a chicken coop. It was huge. Anyway, that's just a few examples. You can do this absolutely anywhere. Let me tell you a little bit about the beginning of everything behind this. I got a degree in biology. Okay, and I did medical research. Then bit by bit, I had 4 masters in watercolor. Bob Blair was one of them. Show the next one. That should be the painting. Blair is probably this country's finest watercolorist and worst businessman anywhere. When I knew him, he had made a magnificent $11,000 that year. Horrible businessman. Carl Koger was another one, living on Social Security, fantastic artist. So I started to look around to find out, is there any way an artist can make a living as an artist? So they were the inspiration. I also learned how to paint because of them. The next one, Paul Tulenko, and you have the list. Show the list. Paul Tulenko came to Las Cruces and taught about a 2-hour business course. That was my first experience to this. On the left side is how you want to live, and you write everything down and what it's going to cost per month. And he really, it was a long list, much longer than this. Then the income that you need. Then you go to the right side. What is it that you make and sell that you think is going to supply this income? And so now you write down the expense of the supplies, the hours per unit, the number per month you can make, the number that actually sell per month, the cost of sales, your advertising. And you really think, it was a big long list, much longer than this. And then you look at the comparison, and hopefully it's an aha, because whatever you're doing isn't going to match the other side. So how are you going to do it? I taught one workshop in the business of art. People came from all over. It was a 3-day workshop. At the end, every one of them chose whether they were professional or a hobbyist. If you're a hobbyist, relax, have a wonderful time. If you're a professional, you're going to have to figure out how to make your art item meet the market that wants to pay for it. And these are big steps. A couple of women from Spokane, Washington, who did raku in their kitchens with their kids painting them. They had excellent sales. One of them liked people. She did the sales. They rented a shop, they hired people, and they turned the stuff out in numbers for 1 year. They proved they could make money, and then they also proved they didn't want to do it. However, a woman who did really nice little illustrations, on cards that weren't selling, did some research and found out there were not good cards for the grief industry. Her business became cards for grieving, and she's totally successful. It was interesting to see how each person, once they knew they had to do it, figured out where their market was for what they did. They didn't have to flip hamburgers. I went to NMSU for 4 years for marketing after the Paul Tulenko list. I wanted to find ways to do art. 1 year, I actually was an agent for 11 artists. I went from Taos to El Paso to Sedona, Tucson, Phoenix, and San Diego. Hit every single gallery. There's a huge difference in quality. Some are obviously run by the girlfriend of the owner who knows nothing and has no brains and no skill. Then there were the 2 top. El Presidio here in Tucson, run by Hank Rentschler, and the Fen in Santa Fe. And I have to tell you a very funny experience at the Fen. I was there waiting to talk to Nidra Matusi, who had owned it. Her father had started, she owned it. While I was waiting, a couple came in. They were in Western wear. He said he was from Arkansas and he wanted to talk to the man who was the authority on Wilson Hurley. Hurley does for expensive paintings. The woman on the floor, there was only one person, said, he's on the phone right now, but I'll get him. He'll be ready in a few minutes and he'll come out and help you. Why don't you have a cup of coffee and look around the gallery? I'm sure you'll see things you like. And I'm covering my mouth because I know who she is. A few minutes later, the man who's the authority on Wilson Hurley comes out. He's well dressed and he takes them over to the Wilson Hurleys and they pick out the painting they want and they pay for it at $60,000 and they leave and it's going to be shipped to them. Then he goes back to the back room, takes off his tie and his sport coat. He's the janitor. He is trained when somebody comes in and says, I want to talk to the man who, he comes out and becomes the man who. And he's skilled at, he only has to show them, they know what they want. He only has to show them the paintings, talk about what he sees. Isn't that red a gorgeous color? Those rocks are nice. And they buy the paintings. Don't say much because you don't want to kill the sale. The woman they were talking to, 2 PhDs in art and the authority on Wilson Harlan. A good gallery is a good gallery. If you're going to do galleries, peruse them first, see if they have the kinds of things you do or if your work fits in. Then either ask then or telephone for an appointment to be seen. Show up on time, be decently dressed, show them your work, and be prepared. They may tell you no, or tell you to come back in January when they look at new artists. But do it as a business. After this, I was competing, winning a lot, had one-person shows, and I made appointments with Paul Tulenko up in Albuquerque. I lived in Las Cruces. So we went up to Albuquerque, and the next thing with Paul Tulenko is the list. Well, that was one of my paintings. That's okay right there. You can go back to that one. That was the quality of paintings I was doing at the time. Now, go to the list, please. Okay, he went over everything I was doing. You know, quality of work, no need to improve, contacts in the community, max, collections, public and private, represented, 4 major one-person shows, and I've had a couple since then. One of those was the Chamasal International Gallery, 56 paintings done in the Western National Park. It was a big show. Competition, yeah, I was competing and winning. International show by the State Department in Mexico. He read it and then he sat back and laughed. And he laughed and he laughed and he laughed. Seemed like 10 minutes. And finally he said, you're not making any money, are you? He's absolutely right. I wasn't making any money at all. And then he gave me the solution. Now this is back in the era when we didn't have computers. The solution was plan to place advertisements in art magazines for a year. And when I had $40,000, come back and he'd show me how to place it. Well, there was no way whatsoever. So much for that. The next thing I did was, I was still painting. My kids wouldn't let me paint. Some of you know what this is like. Sort of watching my time here. The kids wouldn't let me paint. I had teenagers and a husband. And even when I went to the bathroom, they were there telling me how bad something was that another one of them had done. All 3 of them complaining all the time. And I did have a studio, but they wouldn't leave me alone in it. So finally I decided, okay, I will go painting. And I picked a destination. The first one was Glacier National Park from Las Cruces, New Mexico, the bottom of the country to the top. And I decided I was going to drive there and paint all the way, paint there, and paint all the way back. And in those days, we did not have cell phones. So I left Las Cruces with the gun, the dog, and gourmet equipment to cook meals. I got as far as Socorro, New Mexico. It's not very far. Took a look at what I brought and said, this is insanity. I can't cook with this stuff easily in the kitchen. Turned around, took it all back, went down to Sam's Club, brought several flats of Wolf brand chili, and the dog had dog food, and I left. Now I can say it's a diet. It's well balanced, it's surprisingly well balanced. My hot meal for the day was I plugged in a water heater and made a cup of coffee and washed up with the water. I free camped in farms, ranches, and then used campgrounds. Once a week, went to a motel to get a bath. And 3.5 or 4.5 weeks, the trips were different lengths, painted from when I could see in the morning to when I washed the brushes and put them away at the end of the night. So on each trip, did a ton of painting, called home, that had to find places to call home. Those were 25-cent calls, remember that. But it was a tremendous experience. I want to catch what I was doing. Oh, this is the biggie. I knew I was going to miss something really big. On one of the painting trips, I was sketching with India ink. India ink is difficult. It flows beautifully. It makes wonderful wash drawings. It's fabulous as an art form. But you spill it, and you wind up with your car looking like a Dell computer box. You have permanently painted clothes, you'll never be able to wash it out. And I turned around to write a note to a friend and picked up a Pilot pen. Because with India ink, I'll just sort of show you what it's like. You have the brush out here, or the brush here, and the pen here. And to use India ink, you draw and immediately touch it with the brush, putting it into solution. If I have time at the end, I can show you on a great big pad how it works. When I looked at that with the Pilot pen, I still had the brush. I touched the line and it ran like India ink. And that was the beginning of pocket sketching. I took a look at that and it did exactly what India ink did. It mixed with watercolor perfectly as a watercolor. And this is the easiest way to learn watercolor I have ever seen. So I spent the next 3 days doing nothing but experimenting with the first pen. Hence, I know it lasts for 3 days. It's a huge supply of ink. And at that point, I had planned not only to never teach, I had planned to be sure I never ever taught in my life. But I knew that at some time I'd have to bring it out. And then, continued the trip and continued sketching for myself, hoping that nobody else discovered this. And then, of course, things happened. Now, in the background, as this is all going on, I wanted to trademark this. And so I saw 2 patent lawyers. They both said it can't be done. There's a verb in it, sketching. Then I contacted a lawyer here in town. He said he could trademark it, that it would cost $7,000 and would take 6 to 9 months. And then I looked at the US Patent Office online. If any of you want a trademark, do it yourself. $350, 7 months, and I got a trademark. And I think you have a picture of that. Is that the next one? Let me see. Carrizo? Yeah, it's right there. I've got the name of pocket sketching and go one more. Pardon me. There's the trademark. And you have to renew it. I think the first time is 10 years, then 5 years, and then the next one's 10 years. I'm in that one right now. The only hard part of it is figuring out very precisely what it is you are trademarking. That took the longest time. What I trademarked was teaching seminars in pocket sketching, because that's the only thing I wanted to protect. I could protect the bag, but I couldn't protect any of the other equipment because somebody else makes it. Let me see what I've got in here next. The next thing I wanted to know, because I couldn't afford the advertising with Paul Tulenko. Advertising is very, very expensive. So how do you get it for free? We were racing Rhodesian Ridgeback dogs. Show the next one. I don't have the story. That's a Ridgeback having fun on one of the trips. One of them always went with me. I called up the local paper in Las Cruces and said, have you ever heard of a Rhodesian Ridgeback? Oh no, what is it? Well, it's a very rare dog from Africa. And I told them what the use of the dog is. And then I said, we have a kennel and there are almost none in the country. And then a little bit more. Now you put the sizzle on. Don't tell them the facts. Tell them the sizzle. And they asked if they could run a story. I expected a little tiny thing. I got a whole front page on a dog kennel. At that point, I knew you can manipulate the press, and that's free. Or you can pay for advertising. That is not free. Standard magazine ads, one edition, $500 to $1,000. Newspaper ads, $500. I've also put ads on PBS locally. They were $500. I bet they're more now. Manipulating the press depends on who your market is. My market is people of your age primarily. You have time to take a class, you have the money to take a class if you so choose, and you like learning. So this group of people still reads newspapers. So you put your ads in newspapers primarily. Magazines are for younger, maybe younger people, maybe the same people. But getting an article in a magazine, especially a magazine in your area, is hard. Think of who else would be interested in what you do. It's going to take a very hard time for me to get a magazine, an article in an art magazine, but a travel magazine will be easy. I just haven't had the time to do it. A food magazine, I can illustrate food. It'll be easy to get in. It's common interest in a food magazine or a travel magazine. But I'm just an average bloke to an art magazine. So think sideways. Who else would want to know what you do and look to get an article there? Okay, this is life got in the way. My then husband got hit by a car in a crosswalk. We had 12 massive back operations over 14 years. I didn't do anything until Bonnie Henry ran a story in the Star on Seal Peterson. It was a dynamite story. People bought the Star because of Bonnie Henry's daily stories. They were wonderful. And she published several books on history of Tucson. This one, Seal was raised in Bisbee. What caught my eye, because it was just a great story, when Seal was little, she had a brother. Their mom had harvester ants in the garden. The kids decided to get rid of the harvester ants. So her 9-year-old brother snuck into the mines and stole dynamite. They came back and plugged the dynamite sticks down the holes of the ants, ran the fuses to the house, and lit them. They blew out all the neighbors' windows. They blew the garden all over. They didn't kill the ants. The queen could be 20 feet down below. But meanwhile, that was in the story. So I called Bonnie's phone number was there. I called her up and thanked her for her wonderful writing, especially the story on Seal. And I loved the part about the ants and the dynamite. Well, I'm totally complimenting her. So she's got to say something. She said, well, what do you do? I said, I teach pocket sketching. What's that? And I said, well, I can teach people to do landscape, still life, and people in 3 days, and they can do it in 25 minutes or less anywhere. Oh, could I come see one? I said, sure. And she came over and just pleasantly talked and looked at some of my artwork and left. About 2 days later, she called and said, I got space on Thursday. Could I run this story? You know, she'd written a story. That's what I was after. She wrote a story. Go ahead and show the next one. That should be it. That's okay. This is one of the others. Followed all the other magazines. This was the Green Valley News. Then there's another one. See if you can show that one too. Nope, that's not. How did that ever get in there? Okay, I must have missed the other one. I had a full page, the entertainment section in the Star, and then wound up with Tucson Lifestyle, Green Valley News, the Explorer, and the Desert Leaf. All of them. And all of this got me more workshops. The next thing, and then the next one is Thomas and the DVDs. Now, this is the guy who did that cute little thing that showing an oil painter and then a pocket sketcher. Well, he and his wife said I should have some DVDs, and he offered to do them for a price. And so I went up to Sedona and we did them. They really are good. They follow the basic workshop. Number 1 is day 1. Number 2 is day 2. Number 3 is day 3. And I'm doing fine. So I'll tell you a very funny little thing about day 3. It's done on location around Sedona. One part of it is water, the creek that goes through Sedona. I'm sitting in a compost heap, and if anybody or anything makes a noise or any disturbance, Thomas stops and we reshoot over and over and over again. With us, 2 of Thomas's assistants, Dale, the head of the Sedona Art Center and her assistant, And I'm sketching, and it's a one camera deal. Thomas has my pad in focus and the stream in focus. That's it. And I'm sketching and talking my way through the sketch. When across the stream, a man comes through the bushes. You can see the top of his head. He's looking both ways. Then he walks out totally stark naked and lowers into the stream. I don't know if Thomas is filming him. And there's a little break in my voice because it's kind of, hard to remember where you were in the sentence. And then he's in the stream like a hippo, and I keep sketching. By and by, he looks both ways, stands up, and walks back out. Nobody can make a noise. Nobody can snicker. Nobody can cheer. Nobody can indicate anything is happening. And the filming went right on by. Anyways, all of that was fascinating. So that's just part of what we did. I'm missing one of my pieces of paper. It tells me every illustration that comes up next. How did I bury that? There it is. Because it's important. Go down here. The next one, show a couple of examples. There's some real cute ones. That's my dear friend Rosalie, who pots. Now you have to be very fast to catch somebody doing this. And you have to watch what they're doing and see if you can catch a typical pose, because they will change poses, but they'll come back to the same pose again and again. The next one, this little kid was in the Firehouse restaurant with his parents. He was darling. Again, you have to be fast. And this is one of my favorites. This wound up on our wedding invitation when Dale and I got married, and I haven't even brought that up yet. But I did it we got married in December, and I did it at a party for Thanksgiving. And it turned out to be a perfect illustration for a party. And we had a reception it was a potluck. I love potlucks. And I'll just, a little sidelight. I met Dale through Match.com. This is my husband. He is now vice president of shipping. Henry Sarnoff was doing that. It got to be too much work. So Dale is vice president of shipping. It sounds great. And so he handles this stuff every day, and every day he takes stuff to the post office. It's really quite amazing because it's growing. People see the classes on PBS and they want to do it, and they buy the equipment. So Dale's been very, very busy, and he also is having to deal with ordering stuff in advance. And some of these places, like those bags, that order goes in 2 months before I expect them. And then I have to play games with them and basically threaten them with a Chinese manufacturer to get them to make the bags. But they do a beautiful job. So, and he's also goes along with me wherever we go on all of these trips. And so I've mentioned that. And as for where we've gone, now we've done an unusual thing. Not everybody does this. We've taught all over the country. People think that art organizations solicit me for workshops. No, that's only happening now, and we're no longer going on the road. For 11 years that we've been doing this, I've solicited every single workshop. So what I do is, I don't like summer in Tucson. I look to where wealthy people go to vacation of my target group in the summer, and then go online and find art organizations, and then solicit workshops, and then put them in a row. Like last summer, we did Salt Lake, then Coopville, Washington, then 2 in Portland, Oregon, then 1 in Sebastopol, California. That way we can travel in a circle. Now, among the things that make a difference, we're in 2 travel clubs, and you really want to know about these. One of them is evergreenclub.com, and the other one's affordabletravelclub.net. You have to be 50 or older to be a member. You need a room available for guests who are also traveling at least sometime during the year, or we have a guest room available during the winter. $20 a night for 2, including breakfast, $15 for 1, including breakfast, all over the United States. Canada is 35. Paris is 35. We stayed in Paris with club members. What this means is you get to stay with somebody who loves their town, knows everything about it, can tell you where to go, where not to go. You usually pick them, they're all on the website, you pick them by mutual interests. We just stayed in Las Cruces with a couple who owned for many, many years a kitchen supply store that was one of the top stores in the United States, better equipped than Williams-Sonoma. And they also had international chefs come and teach. Now, I like food, I love food. And so it was just fun. We talked about food and all their experiences. They went to Spain with a group of internationally renowned chefs. So every restaurant cooked up the best thing they possibly could for them. And we've met people all over the country. And it just had a wonderful time. It's like you've got relatives. And then some of them have stayed with us. So that's evergreenclub.com and affordabletravelclub.net. Look them up. The people are why you become a member. You certainly don't make money on it. But consequently, we didn't spend a ton of money on staying in motels. I taught in Ann Arbor, and this gets to the next step. Jan Palm was one of the students, and she said, come over to Grand Rapids and see Art Fest. It's one of the biggest international competitions in the world. They give away $500,000, $250,000 in one prize, and the other prize is split, I think it's 5 ways. One prize is decided by people voting, and the other is by a jury. And anything goes, like anything on paper, anything made with metal, anything at all, but you have to be there, I think it's 18 days, with your artwork to talk to the public about it. It is tremendous exposure. So of course we went, and I didn't tell you a part here, and this is really important. I went to KUAT to ask if they would do a show. I very much follow Bob Ross. And what Bob Ross taught was oil painting when moms were home and could paint all day and then put it away before the kids got back. Well, people don't have that time anymore. Nobody's sitting at home painting in oils. Well, a few are, but not that many. Pocket sketching is the perfect follow-up for a fast-paced world. So I talked to the KUAT about doing a Bob Ross type of show. And they'd love to have it. They do a great job. The quoted price was, oh yeah, we can do it. It's $100,000 an episode for 13 episodes. And I thought instantly, if I had $100,000 to give an artist, but I'd give it to a flake artist who's got to go out and find 12 more suckers with $100,000. I mean, that's over and out. So when I went over to Grand Rapids with Jan and I told her this story, she said, why don't you go to our local station? That's WGVU. So I went to the local station, met Phil Lane. He absolutely loved it. And his quote was $25,000 for 13 episodes, inclusive. Well, I didn't have that at the time. Later, Dale got a disability payment from the US government for Agent Orange. And I called up Phil and said, hey, Phil, we can do one. That was the first year. The second year was paid for by our followers. What do you call it? Constant contact. And I just asked for donations, and they're all in the credits. And people donated as little as $10 and as much as, I think somebody was $2,000. All kinds of donations. The third one has just been paid for by 2 people. I'm now this soliciting thing never seems to end. I'm soliciting sponsors, but I got 2 people who are covering the third show, and it'll come out shortly. So all of this, every bit of this, I mean, it's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of looking out. Okay, you tell me I can't do it. Okay, how do I get it done? If I can't do it, there's got to be a way to get around that. When we went to film it, all of Bob Ross is on YouTube. So I went through season 1, episode 1 and 2, wrote down every bit of dialogue, every camera angle. And when we showed up on set, I could give it to the director. These are the camera angles you need. This is where you need to place the cameras. And this is the script. And then I stayed pretty much on it. The show is 26 minutes long. If I come up short, I have to make up 4 minutes. If I come up long, I have to cut off, usually 4 minutes. Timer in front of me, I've got one right here. They want to know if I could work on a timer. When I teach workshops, I'm on a timer. When I sketch in 25 minutes or less. And I can show you this. This somewhat ugly wristwatch. Yeah, that's my timer. So I write my beginning time on the top of the paper, and then I write 20 minutes later. When I hit that 20 minutes, I got 5 minutes to finish. Now, this is kind of an interesting thing. I tell my people in workshops this. What happens is you only have time to catch what you think you saw, not the details. You do not have to sit on the curb for 4 hours. I will not do that. I won't sit on the curb and I won't stay anywhere for 4 hours. In 25 minutes, you are still interested in what you're looking at. And you see it through the magic of your life of that day. So you see what's not there. The reason your camera photographs are boring when you get home from a trip, the camera shoots what's there. You brought your whole day, anybody you're with, anything that's happening to you, to what you think you saw, and what you think you saw isn't there. You're seeing the magic. In 25 minutes, you can catch that. You go beyond that, you start to put in extra details, change things, change the colors, try to make it perfect. And if this is a problem, pull out your cell phone and take a picture. Now you've got all of it and you can put down what you think you saw. It's so much better. So what we're doing now, the next thing that happened when we were teaching was COVID. You know, that happened to all of us. I did not want to teach online. I didn't think it would work at all. It works incredibly well. So we started doing 5 classes, 3 days apart, and then they're recorded for 2 weeks. So that some people who can't get to a class can pick it up on the recording. People who learn slowly can get through it by going to the recording. And then the very first thing in the next session is review their homework. It proved to me that they learned every single lesson. There were some things we couldn't do because we don't have the studio equipment. Like in my regular classes, I pose for the class, but we don't have the equipment to photograph that. But we could cover a lot. And people learned and they really got excited. So I can say that I think online is extremely valuable. What we're stepping up to now is we're going to be teaching teachers because we're not traveling anymore and I need people all over the country teaching this. So we're doing 5.5-day teacher classes and it will include absolutely everything I know from the minute I walk in the room at the beginning of the first day till when I walk out. And every bit of the business that somebody needs to know. And then we follow up and help them. We have a fabulous webmaster. She's putting our teachers up. They're each going to have a page on the website because they're teaching in their areas and people need to know where they can go to get a class. And if they need any kind of review, we'll do a review. And as I come up with more stuff, they're going to get the more stuff. Like now I have to come up with season 4. And it's fascinating finding new ideas. As for what's happening next, I've got a workshop, a basic one that starts tomorrow. And there's room in it if anybody wants to join. I've got 3 people, one of whom I've had before. Some people come back and she is absolutely delightful. It's such fun. We have had the privilege of meeting wonderful people all over the country. Oh, I missed a market and I've got a few minutes. I'll tell you a market that's very peculiar. And this happened by accident. It's hard to get into the schedule of art organizations because they have so many people teaching who are artists. Then I heard from a business meeting that when a company donates to a not-for-profit, the standard donation is 2 or 3%. It took me a while, I'm a little slow, it took me a while to say, wait a minute. So I called up the Wood River Animal Shelter in Sun Valley. the most popular not-for-profit in Sun Valley, Idaho. And asked to talk to, I think it was it was somebody in business. It wasn't someone who'd schedule workshops. And said, I have another profit center for you. I teach workshops and you could have 40% of what I make. 40%? Listen carefully. I will teach a workshop for you. You get the location. You advertise it on your email list. And you take the registrations and you keep 40% and you pay me. So they did it. I taught 4 times for them the first time. And I said, you might want to give it to the board as a gift or members who donate heavily as a thank you gift. And then you pay me for the workshop and I'll give you a flat fee. Or you might want to open it to your membership. I'd never have access to that membership. Just think, the symphony, they have people who would buy what you make. The Angel Charity, they have people who would buy what you make. Think out of the box, because when you think out of the box, there's a lot more out there that you wouldn't have thought of. But I had 4 different workshops from them, always the Wood River Animal Shelter, which is just, this opens up every not-for-profit in the country, if you can think of how to make it worth their while. The business end is fascinating. So I was just, okay, I will check my time here. All right, anybody have any questions? I'm basically done. You can show my last 2 slides. I love them. One of them I send to every, that's the Tucson Botanical Garden. And the other one is Eileen. She was dressed in beige in front of a beige wall. This is using complementary colors to make her stand out. And she was one of my students, sketched her, and I sent this out to area art organizations where I've had a workshop. Anybody have any questions? Well, I think, oh yes.
Have you ever taught on any cruise ships?
Not yet. If there's any.
We have a couple people here who have taught on cruise ships, right?
Yeah, and
Oh,
if you teach on a cruise ship and you don't have to teach more than 1 hour, you and a companion get a free cruise. And I had one of the gallery owners in California, when his wife died, he closed the gallery. And because he danced well, he was a man in his early 80s. He signed on for a lot of cruises. And he took one of his buddies and they just had a fabulously good time. Yeah, I haven't taught on a cruise ship and I haven't aligned with a resort yet. These I'm looking at as soon as I have time. All of this takes a ton of time and it's kept me from painting and from having friends because we travel so much. But that's changing. Our lives are changing. Anyway, thank you so much for being here.
What an amazing woman she is, huh? She keeps on going. And thanks to Dale too. Sounds like you have a great life. You're with Vice President over there, right? Well, this is wonderful. So please take a look at Kath's work here and her CDs. And thank you, Kath. That was a great talk for anybody who, I mean, everybody wants to be an artist, but to really market yourself, it's not an easy thing, is it? That part of it. And sounds like you've tackled it well. Thank you so much. That was a great talk. So we're going to end for today. We hope that you will stay and we're going to take a look at our stars. They're really fun. And we hope you'll stay and we'll get that out. We can make some stars together, talk to each other and look at our tables. And we'll see you in February, but we'll also see you in January via Zoom, a Zoom only meeting. So bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Yay. This room seems so big sometimes, doesn't it?
It really does.